question.
Why don't you tell me the story of what happened between you and President Barack Obama?
The main event for Democrats, Senator Obama versus Senator Clinton, but also in the ring, Obama and the college freshman, 19-year-old Stefan Doyno.
Just an issue of protecting my company and the integrity of my brand.
Today, I am here with Stefan Doyno, who has spent the last 20 years doing a lap most people don't actually finish. He started in broadcast at Good Morning America, got 2 Emmys there. He moved into leading fashion content at print and digital titles like Women's Wear Daily and Harper's Bazaar. And he's a friend who can tell you what the Jane Hotel smelled like in 2011, why the Met Gala after party list keeps shrinking, and which magazine cover actually moved brands last quarter. Stefan, welcome to Before We Cheers.
Thank you for having me.
Thanks for coming. How are we today?
Good. I was like 10 minutes late, so I had a bit of an anxiety attack.
That's okay. That's all right. You're a man of the people. You took the subway.
Yeah.
Very honorable.
Thank you. I'm trying to reduce my carbon footprint.
So one thing, which is I didn't even know, and we've been friends for years. Why don't you tell me the story of what happened between you and President Barack Obama many moons ago?
Many moons ago. I had a company that had a trademark called Change Rocks, and his campaign was Change. Do you want me to go back to the beginning?
Tell it like it is.
So I had a jewelry company in high school. I think it started my freshman year. It basically was like an engagement ring, and it had like different stones you could switch out.
Hence Change Rocks.
Yeah, it was called Change Rocks.
Okay, cool. There was actually a lot of that going on. We had like those bracelets, those charm bracelets where you could switch out the charms, et cetera. They were very popular then.
So this was fully, sketched out. I had a factory that was making them and selling them. Serendipity sold them, which was great. Zittimer's, Blue Tree, and then a bunch of stores like nationwide. So that was really, really awesome, and I loved doing that. And I thought I was going to end up going into jewelry or design. So that was like in high school, and then my freshman year of college, was the Change campaign, and there was a concert called Change Rocks. So
I remember that show.
Yeah. So I think what happened was I think because we had a trademark, the lawyers picked up on it, so they just sent you can't sell jewelry or t-shirts with the trademark.
Cease and desist, baby.
Yeah, but no, I voted for him, and I feel like
there was no doubt that I'm sure in my mind you voted for it, and whatever.
But it was a really funny time, and it's actually why I got into television. It got picked up or whatever by AP. Like AP,
Associated Press.
Yeah, they just like wrote an article about this, and it turned into like a whole media thing, and it was incredible and weird. And I remember I had CBS came to everyone made it so political, and it had nothing, like it actually didn't even have anything to do with me.
Right.
But they sent a car. Fox News sent a car. I went with my dad, and I remember getting sent down to 6th Avenue. But I remember when I stepped onto like the stage, I was like, oh, I want to do TV.
Fox News?
Yeah, that was my aha moment. I was like, oh my God. But it's funny because the anchor, I remember, was very blonde, and I don't remember who it was. But she's telling this story, and she said, she was like just pressing me and making it super political. And she said something like, can you believe he's doing this to you? And I was like, that's not what's happening. And and I wasn't I don't think I was going to say out loud, I'm voting for Obama, like on Fox News, but I wasn't going to say who. She asked me who I was voting for, and I remember saying like, oh, I'm not going to.
Oh, so they were trying to use you as sort of like a political pawn, basically.
So I remember, I was like,
as a kid,
this is bad press. I just remember my favorite part of being on Fox News was at the end, I'm sitting to her right, and I turn to like shake her hand. She turns to like read into the camera and like leaves me hanging, and then the camera's still on me, and you just see me go. I rolled my eyes. I did a hard eye roll, and then CBS News had come, and that was a great like piece or whatever, good publicity, and they did a graphic which was like Hillary and Obama with punching bags, and then she gets knocked out by me with a punching bag. Like, ugh.
What happened with Change Rocks after that? I mean, you had a patent and like all that stuff from high school, right?
It's been like maybe 20 plus years. So I don't know, maybe we'll release a few things from the archive.
You still have it?
I still have a bunch of product. Yeah. It was fun. It was like such a great time to like design something and to like speak to a factory and to see it being made and have prototypes. So I really loved doing that. What I didn't love was going into like message boards and seeing like the comments.
You never read the comments.
Yeah. Someone was like, everybody wants a piece of the pie. after that story.
You know what? It might have been the reporter from Fox News that went in and was commenting on your.
I didn't give her what she wanted, but then I think someone else said something like Macaulay Culkin looking something. Yeah, something like that. Yeah.
Did Obama ever call you back? Did the campaign ever call you back?
The campaign wished me well and said they weren't planning on selling any jewelry or T-shirts. So it was totally fine. It just had become like a news story.
I want to talk about Good Morning America and that time for you.
Mm-hmm.
What was that your first gig?
I started out, I had been interning with ABC and it was in sports, which is so funny because
because you're a sports expert.
Because I love sports. And I think I was logging golf and baseball, and then you'd have to go in. I forget the guy's name at the time. It was Scott something, who was the sports reporter.
Sure.
Hidden earring. But I'd have to go in and give him sort of the highlights from whatever happened. And I loved being in a studio and I loved being in a control room and all that. And the energy. And so then continued it on while I was in college. So when I graduated from there, I went straight into ABC to work for digital. I'd actually gotten an offer. I had gotten The View and digital. The View was 3 days a week and digital was 4 days a week. And so I went for digital, but then I got a call from a producer at The View and she was like, why don't you want to come to The View? And I was like,
a myriad of reasons.
Yeah, I said, but actually that's when The View was so cool. Do you remember with the Elizabeth Hasselbeck era?
I was just going to ask, was that which
it was
cast
right
was
around there. So
was Whoopi already part of the cast at that point? Oh yeah, it was Barbara Walters, Whoopi, Sherry Shepherd, Joy Behar, who then departed in August and I guess came back later, Elizabeth Hasselbeck. Yeah. Jenny McCarthy then joined the panel in September, which is crazy.
For a season. I remember that. I would have loved to have done it, but it was 3 days a week and digital was 4 days a week. And on the phone, I was like, I already said yes to digital. And she was like, so what? I'll
so what? Who cares?
Yeah, so what? Who cares? She was like, do you want it or not? And then I was like, 3 days a week versus 4 days a week. I'm going to do the 4 days a week.
Yeah.
So I did the 4 days a week and ruined my relationship with The View. And then I ended up moving on from being freelance there or an intern into a freelance territory and getting to be an associate producer. And I did that for over a year. And then I got a call from HR and they said that GMA had heard about me and wanted to work with me. And so I interviewed and went to GMA and I loved it. I loved GMA because you had the ability to, if you were a good writer, you could put your own stamp on it and have your own voice shine through. And you could watch a piece and be like, oh yeah, that does sound like me, or that does sound like that person. And then I was also able to mimic what a certain reporter sounded like.
That's so fun.
Yeah.
It feels like a very unique time also in media. We're talking about the mid 2010s. Things were starting to change a little bit, but a lot hadn't caught on yet. It felt like Spotify had kind of just premiered in the US.
Yeah.
We were very much into streaming and digital, but not everything had completely shifted off its axis and caught on yet. Yeah. So there was a very unique time where everyone still felt like they could find their individual voice and put it out there somehow. We were still fascinated by it.
It was also interesting because it was right before, I'm trying to think the time. I mean, to be in news at that time, it was before 2016.
Yeah.
So a lot of the news was very much I don't think you would talk about the president of the United States on a daily basis.
Yeah.
There was always politics, but it was not as...
It wasn't a circus.
It wasn't every single story.
Yeah.
You weren't thinking about it every single day, So I loved it.
I still don't. I've checked out.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have. I still read in the morning, I check the headlines and it's a very fascinating, strange time. I don't like to wake up with a lot of anxiety, so I
have a friend who reads the op-eds in the New York Times before she goes to bed, and I'm like, what the hell are you doing?
They started adding breaking news to every single email I have.
Great. But that's good for anxiety.
Yeah, I know, exactly. It's all in caps.
Yeah.
And then a colon, and it's breaking news. Breaking news, Summer House finale.
Okay, so let's talk about Summer House for a second.
I would love to.
If we go back a couple of years, Vanderpump Rules had sort of a similar, let's call it the opposite of a reckoning. It's sort of a rebirth where there was a big scandal and more news outlets than probably ever before started writing about the show.
Yeah.
Now you're getting like people at Vogue and the New York Times writing about Summer House because there was this couple that you thought very much like Vanderpump Rules, they were going to stay together forever or however long the show, et cetera. They were married and then they split apart and then the woman hooked up with someone else in the group and now they're together. We are now seeing this big resurgence and this big interest surrounding this cheating scandal with the show, which means that their viewership has never been higher than it is now.
Yeah.
People are retroactively going back and watching, these extra minutes on, Bravo Peacock to be caught up and be a part of the conversation. Their reunion, at least part one, it drew 3 million viewers. That's up 43% year over year. Which means they had about half that, like last year's reunion before any of this stuff happened.
I think it's one of those, it's become like a national phenomenon.
Yeah.
I think because a lot of people resonate with whichever character you are in that love triangle.
Mm-hmm.
I personally like, I bet.
Yeah. Which one are you?
Who am I? People see themselves in it, or, I feel like there's a lot of girls or a lot of people I know that you just have to read the comments. Like they rush to certain people's defense and they hate certain people.
Yeah.
I guess the dynamic there is, it was like these two girls were best friends.
Mm-hmm.
And there's this like guy or whatever who was involved with one of them, but didn't really treat her all that well. This is like the world's worst recap of Summer House ever. I could be naming names and
but you could also be naming like multiple people at once.
Yeah.
The truth is that none of the guys on the show really treat,
women that
that well.
So, like, Kyle was married to Amanda.
Yeah.
Amanda's best friend was Sierra. And then there's this guy, West.
Yeah. With a T.
With a T. I've been saying West, but whatever, West. Yeah. And so this guy West had dated Sierra at some point a few seasons back, and he's kind of playing with her head. And then at the end, he ends up hooking up with Amanda, who is recently divorced from Kyle. So now like there's like two sides now. There's like the Sierra and Kyle side, and then you have the Amanda and the West side. And Amanda and West are public enemy number one. So it's interesting to see. But I mean, people resonate with the story because they've either been cheated on or best friends have hooked up with, exit, whatever the situation is. I guess people but they're really leaning into it. It's doing what like Beverly Hills isn't doing, where you have like drama that's actually seeping outside.
I don't want to slice the shows up by like millennial versus Gen Z.
It's a little more millennial
versus whatever. But it is because even if the show started 10 seasons ago, it's, which would make you think that it was so Gen Z heavy, which I'm sure from an audience perspective it is now. Mm-hmm. But millennials have really grown up with this cast.
I do think it's interesting that Peacock will show a reunion like uncensored and extended. Like I'd seen
That's what you're paying for.
Well, I remember I was watching it live. I do pay for it. I was watching it live. And I think there was I was wondering why Jesse Solomon was crying randomly throughout, and then
we were all wondering.
It seemed a little bizarre, and then they had like an extended moment on the Peacock, the streaming version of it, and he's talking about how he had a friend who was lying to him, hooking up with an ex, and his and lying all summer about it. So it had like hit him hard, and he had been talking about it for months. So that makes sense as to why he was a little more emotional. I just thought he was upset that like his core group was falling apart. Just a little.
Yeah, and it's also strange that they omitted that from the actual reunion.
Yeah, maybe for time.
Maybe to make him just look extra emotional.
Or make people flock to Peacock.
Yeah, let's break that down just for 1 second. Why? What makes like one franchise of a reality show like good versus another? Like, yes, you could argue that the newer Real Housewives of Rhode Island is new, it's fresh, and you've got this great group of women who actually know each other. Which works versus like a Beverly Hills where you feel like some of these women have known each other a while because of the show, but none except like Kyle and Kathy who are sisters have known each other like really that long outside of like the cameras rolling in real life. So what makes it good and what makes it like a snooze and time to change the channels?
I think what makes reality TV good is authenticity, which sounds like obvious, but it's not, because people sign up for these things. And now that you have like Instagram and social media that's so heavily involved, and you have like the Bravoverse, where people go into something knowing that there's like a billion people watching them. They're not going to be their most authentic selves. I think Beverly Hills was so good when it started was probably for all the wrong reasons, for all the, like watching Kyle and Kim fight was very uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Like that first season in the car, and she like reveals that she's an alcoholic, her sister's an alcoholic. And you think, oh my God, I would never do that to my sibling. Like, can you imagine how horrible that would be? Like on TV. And that's, I mean, you see the timeline play out however many years later. I don't know, it's been on for 15 years. Like, it's a horrible thing to do to an immediate family member. And so it's caused all these like problems.
Or anyone, but mostly.
Or any, sorry.
But I'm mostly your sister.
I could not fathom doing that. And it sort of like set the tone for, and then you have like the great characters. You have like the Lisa Rinnas and such, but then you have someone like Dorit right now who's going through a public divorce. And then you had Erica, who is so fascinating and fun to watch. And that
also went through a public divorce,
but that's when
another thing.
I feel like hard news and reality TV really started to like blend, where like the New York Times would be because you're writing about Erica Jane and the case. But I do feel like in the last few years, they stopped having hardcore issues, which maybe seems a little less interesting to people.
Yeah, like they're lacking a storyline that is gripping.
But also like with the authenticity, you have someone come in like Dorit who's like head to toe Louis Vuitton. It doesn't feel like what her everyday is probably. I feel like she's not wearing that to the supermarket every single day. Or I don't know if she's been to a supermarket recently, but you know what I mean? Like going into...
you know what the price of milk is?
Like, going into Glam for like 5 hours to shoot a scene at a restaurant.
Well, you'd said that Glam Squads ruin reality TV, sort of.
I think they just take away the authenticity.
But it's become standard now.
Yeah.
And you could see when Lisa Barlow was freaking out on that trip like a couple seasons ago about not having Glam it was when they were doing the drag queen makeup episode and she didn't want to do her own and she had a nervous breakdown because she wasn't going to get Glam for it or something like that.
I do recall seeing that in the hard-hitting breaking news that I follow. On the flip side, like I'm loving Rhode Island right now. And that feels very like early Real Housewives of New Jersey, because they're not spending so much time in glam. They're not putting so much energy into like designer clothes and all of that. They're just like showing up and doing their best, and they're doing a very good job. And I'm obsessed with it. They're a little more authentic and relatable and just like wacky, obviously, and probably a heightened / exaggerated version of themselves, but not that extreme.
It's a group of women who actually had history. And that's more of what people, I think, really want to watch, rather than let's put these attractive people in a room together and see what happens. Yeah, that might work with a Love Island or a Big Brother or whatever, but that's not what we're watching. That's not the only thing we're watching Housewives for.
So Vanderpump Rules was the, not the blueprint, but like sort of started Summer House.
Yeah, and Real Housewives of Beverly Hills started Vanderpump.
Exactly.
And arguably OC and Real Housewives of New York were the ones that like inspired BH and therefore and there and back again.
But I think since like Vanderpump Rules kind of disappeared, I think maybe the people just wanted messy young adults.
Yeah, we always want something new.
Yeah.
We don't want to see anything we love fail.
Yeah.
We don't want it to watch it get worse, because it just gets sad at a certain point that they're just trying so hard and they might be going through a lot more pain in their personal life than is worth the laugh
when
from
it gets
an audience watcher.
Too deep, it's uncomfortable to watch.
Yeah, it is.
Watching someone with a problem slurring on TV each episode is not. I don't find it as.
It's
exciting.
funny sometimes.
Sometimes.
I like watching people get shit housed on TV sometimes.
Sometimes, and then other times I'm like, oof, that's gonna live on forever.
Yeah. So. The other great part of it is most of the viewers at home, unless you live close to Rhode Island or you grew up going there or something like that, they don't really know much about it. It's small. Yeah. It's the smallest state in the union. Like everyone knows that. It actually is like, I mean, Newport's gorgeous.
Yeah.
It's a cultural epicenter. They have like the Newport Folk and Jazz Festival every year. My parents go every year. I mean, it's a mainstay. And it's a beautiful seaside town. But that's kind of what I feel like most people know for the most part.
It's That's all people know from, and now you feel like you're getting an inside look. I have a friend who lives there, and I was like texting. We were talking about. I always like talking about like the restaurants and the little things like that, or shops that they're in, and you're like, oh, because that's what's fun for us, I suppose. Watching like Real Housewives of New York at one point was seeing like JG Mellon in the background, or seeing it was like T-Bar where they would go and get drinks, and just seeing those things.
R.I.P. T-Bar.
Yeah, they moved. But it's not the same. The best martini. You want to talk about the best martini?
Yeah, I love a hotel cocktail bar more than anything. When you make a martini, it's a good measure of the kind of bar you're at.
Yeah.
Because listen, if I go to a dive bar, I'm not going to necessarily be asking that. And that's okay, because like I know what I'm getting out of like a dive bar. And by the way, they can make martinis at dive bars, but that's not really what you're looking for there. If I'm going to a hotel cocktail bar, it's a good barometer for me as to like what I'm going to get. So that's baseline if you can get if you're trying out a bar in particular.
Something about like a wooden table and a couple of velvet cushions around. Even better if you have some good music playing on in the background, but like a cocktail bar that has that kind of energy. It reminded me of the Jane. And I love that. I love that kind of setting when it comes to hotel bars. Dim and just plush. Oh my God. So something Zach and I will be doing after this is taking a bartending class.
Yeah.
And calling Stanley's Steamer. Oh, it's a good martini.
Oh, good. It's pure alcohol.
Is that how I've been ordering it this whole time? Are there
I don't know how much the olive juice made it into the glass.
No. I think just on my shoe.
Yeah.
You want to talk about why nostalgia is so important right now?
Yeah, I do. Why is Hollywood seemingly running out of ideas, and why is it more expensive to invest in an original idea now than it ever has been versus before? Because it feels like if you don't have a built-in audience, and you're not established, they don't really want to hear the rest of what your idea is.
It's because it's like a safe bet.
Yeah.
That's why you get all these reboots. I mean, I was at the movie theater maybe a few years ago, or a year ago, I would say. It was before I Knew What You Did Last Summer came out, which I liked. The reboot, which I don't think did very well, but I loved it because I loved that movie growing up. And every single poster in the theater was of a movie that we've seen or grew up with or loved. Toy Story 5 is coming out. That's going to do well because it's a Pixar movie and it's sort of ingrained in everyone's brains. Scream 7 got like very harsh reviews, but like
but it did the best of anyone in any movie in the Scream franchise.
It did so well, and like they're doing a Scream 8 with these two writers, women. I don't know their names, but like whatever the review, like I'll be there. I want to see it on the big screen. That's like the only thing that you have that kind of feels like a warm, cuddly blanket is like going to a movie and sort of having like for an hour and a half or 2 hours, that semi-experience that you had back in like 1998 when you dragged your grandmother to go see Scream 2 on 86th
or
and
Fast and the Furious 10.
Oh God.
You know, they've been making those for 25 years.
The movies though that I made my grandmother go to, like Urban Legend was with my mom, but like Scream 2 with my grandmother, Idle Hands.
Did she like Scream 2? That was with Laurie Metcalf, right?
You know what's funny? Yes, I love Scream 2. But like she and I left, I think Twister. There was a movie theater on 63rd, right by where I live now. We went to see Twister and we both walked out like with a headache. I was like 8 years old. But I love Twister. And then they rebooted it, made Twisters, and I think like the film industry is suffering. I think it's starting to get back on its feet. I think streaming is sort of like the predominant, is like how people, consume their media. But I do think in terms of original ideas, I haven't seen it yet. I think I'm going to go this week in Obsession.
Yeah, I was talking about it on my last episode.
Is an original idea, and sometimes like those bets take off. Like it's made, I don't know how many times the amount.
Now this director's like a golden child in Hollywood because he did seemingly the impossible, where he took a $750K budget and turned it into $100 million profit.
And it's
within a month.
But look at the original ideas that like Sinners was original, and that obviously cleaned up and did very well. And Weapons last summer was an original idea. You see these movies and you're like, this is quirky. I don't know how people are going to like feel about it or whatever. So some of the
genre bending and fusion is seemingly popular with people.
You can't go wrong with horror. People love horror.
Well, I'm so squeamish and I'm such a little bitch when it comes to horror, so I can't even like call myself an expert. But for those that like it, you know, Obsession is more of like a psychological thriller with horror elements. I would say the same about Weapons. I would say the same about Get Out.
Yeah.
So, you know, Blumhouse, like I get it. I understand
Scary Movie 6.
Scary movies. Yeah, it's oh my God, it is 6. 6?
I keep saying 6.
7?
I think it's 6.
Yeah.
And it brings you back to like the summer of whatever, 2000?
2000 was when Scary Movie 1 came out.
Yeah.
2 came out like a year later in 2001 or 2002.
And I made my parents and my brother go see it when I was at camp. I will redact the name of the camp. I'm not giving them press. I hated that place. But, you know, your parents come to visit and it's like, what do? You go to the, I guess it was the Berkshire Mall, which is no longer, or maybe it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
And there was a movie theater and I wanted to see Scary Movie. It had all the elements I loved. And it's like such an inappropriate movie with your parents, but it's like everybody in the family's laughing and loved it.
Yeah.
And I'm hoping that that's what happens. I saw an ad for a movie with Leslie Mann. I forget what it's called or all the women who are in it, but it has an energy to it that feels very much like the Judd Apatow movies. I feel like all that kind of ended in 2016 for whatever reason. The shift in comedy, like you had
away from like the Knocked Up and the Superbad.
Yeah, all these movies that sort of like had like the same faces in them, or we kind of stopped having these like really laugh out loud, crude comedies. But I saw an ad and it kind of reminded me of that. So I'm hoping we get back to that type of movie at some point soon. And I'm hoping nostalgia, because I think all the people who were like our age at the time that loved it grow up to make movies that they loved as a kid.
Yeah. And I would say like off of that, I think in terms of nostalgia, like we're not always talking about the actors in particular. Sometimes we are, but I think there are elements of the type of films and programs that we love to see.
Yeah.
The type of media that was out there that we would love to see again. Wayans brothers, they commit to the bit. That's why they're so beloved, because when you do dumb, quote unquote dumb or like silly humor, like very, very well,
it's amazing.
That's all anyone wants.
I mean, we'll just say it. Like one of our favorite movies is White Chicks.
Yeah.
It's like, it's a really funny movie. And it's like, of course there are elements, but they make fun of everybody.
Everyone.
And it's like offensive to everybody, and I don't think it was well received, whatever. But like,
but it didn't. There you go.
Classic.
That's because it doesn't matter what like A.O. Scott or these New York Times critics might be saying about the quality of cinema of White Chicks.
Yeah.
It's like no one watching that movie who like enjoyed it gives a shit about their opinions.
And it's so Y2K. It's one of those movies, I think like anytime it's on TBS or whatever cable station, they have to put like a warning before it, saying like this was made at a different time. But
first of all, I think that like that type of conversation, that language I think it's a little bit outdated. I'm not saying it's not happening anymore, but I think that
you mean cancel culture?
Yeah, I think that like the talk around it was very almost 10 years ago now.
It just needs to be a product that allows other people to create comedy that's in a similar vein. We just need like more comedies. We need more fun. Everyone takes themselves very, very seriously. We need to.
That's exactly what the Wayans brothers have been saying in nearly every interview when they say, "Why'd you make this?" Like, because we have to laugh again and we have to stop like screaming at each other and just like be in the same space and be able to just like take the edge off.
And they're like very talented.
Extremely.
And I think
their whole family.
The whole family is so talented. So I'm hoping that this sort of like does very well and we see either more scary movies or just more original ideas from them. This was such a fun episode. Do we have to say goodbye? Thank you so much.
You never have to say goodbye here. We just say cheers.
I will see you next time.
Yeah.
I love doing this. I'll see you next week. See you next Tuesday. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, girl.